Hello and welcome to another video. It is wonderful to have you here, and welcome to the preview video for the second book in our Thomas Hardy read-along. That is Under the Greenwood Tree, and I have these 4 different editions of Under the Greenwood Tree. So this is the book that we are reading in July, and this video is just a little preview. No spoilers. I'm not really going to explain this book at all, but just tell you a tiny bit about it to maybe encourage you to read this book with us, or maybe just to help you decide whether you will read it or not. So I'll just tell you a few things about the kind of book that it is, so you can make a more informed decision. So a couple of housekeeping things first. Just to remind you that there is a Discord server that you can join in with, and the link will always be in the description box below. And that's where kind of people are discussing as they're reading along. People are joining in at different times. And there's a great community of people over there, some really great insights and great thoughts into our first book, Desperate Remedies, and just, yeah, everyone's having a great time over there. But there's also, if you don't want to join in there, there's also a free Patreon where you can just sign up and then you'll get an email whenever I post something, which is normally just a weekly poem somehow related to the book. Some of the poems won't necessarily be, because not every week we can have a poem that matches up exactly, but I've managed to find quite a few good ones so far that I think matched up quite well with some of the themes or general kind of vibe of the book. But I'll also be posting these videos there first as well, and that's completely free, so you can sign up to that. So just in case you've forgotten, all of those links are below as well. Another housekeeping thing, I thought it would be worth talking about it in this video rather than in any other specific video. We had a little bit of a discussion on Discord about the audiobooks. So quite a few people listen to the audiobooks of classics. They find it easier to access, or it's just easier to kind of listen to it as you're doing other things. And lots of people who are rereading prefer to reread as an audiobook. Anyway, there's lots of different reasons that people use the audiobook, and some people flip between the two. I know I do this as well. So sometimes if I'm doing something like the washing up, I will listen to the audiobook, and then if I'm in bed at reading at night, I will switch to the physical book. And somebody mentioned on Discord that they had noticed that the audiobook they were listening to, that it was different for Desperate Remedies to the physical book that they had. And I just thought it might be worth briefly discussing this at the moment. So Hardy's first 2 novels, Desperate Remedies and Under the Greenwood Tree, were published anonymously and published as standalone novels. Now, I'm not a Hardy scholar, I'm just a fangirl of Hardy, so I don't know how many of his subsequent novels were published in serialised form. I think it was all of them, or most. No, it wasn't all, but I think it was most of them. So quite a lot of his books were published serialised. And what generally happens then is it's serialised in a newspaper or a literary publication, and then put together for a published edition. And sometimes, well, quite often actually, the final book that's published is different to the serialised version. But then quite often what happened with Hardy is that those books were revised again. So Under the Greenwood Tree is a really good example of this. So Under the Greenwood Tree was published in, you'd think I would know this, 1872. Very sorry about this. It's published in 1872, but in 1913, Hardy had stopped writing novels by that point, but the publisher Macmillan were republishing all of his novels, and they asked him to edit them. And what you'll find in a lot of books, particularly the Penguin classics, they're really good at this, is they will include the note on the text. Sometimes it's at the front, sometimes it's at the back. In here it's at the back, and it says that this edition follows the Macmillan Wessex edition of 1912, which is the last to be revised by Hardy. So a lot of his books were revised from when they were first serialised to first published, and sometimes they were revised several times. So this edition that I have is a Collins edition. It contains no information. It's illustrated as well. It's got these great pictures. It contains no information about when it was published, but it is slightly different to this one. I was looking through them all, and then these two are both Macmillan editions, and this lovely Art Deco one was published in 1920, and this one is from the 60s, with this really hideous cover. I love it, and this is a much prettier cover. But These two are both the Macmillan ones, so they're actually the same as this Penguin one. They don't contain any notes about the fact that it was revised. So what I'm saying is you will quite often find, if you look, especially in the Penguin books, it will tell you which edition it is. I don't think I've ever seen an audiobook which tells you which edition of the book they're actually using for the audio. Now, the reason Hardy edited it, most of the time, it's the odd word or phrase. Like right at the beginning of this, I think it's near the start of the second chapter, he uses the words comrades in the revised edition, but the original had the word acquaintances, I think. And that was what my audiobook that I listened to this last time I read it had the original version. So quite often it's just word choice. Hardy has decided that there's a different word that he prefers, so he'll choose a different word. Quite a lot of the time as well, it's place names. So Hardy he kind of invented this area of Wessex, and you quite often get a map in the front of these editions. And this is the southwest of England, and there was a place called Wessex a long time ago, but he just sort of decided to name this whole area Wessex. And they are actual place names, so if you ever go there, you can normally get like a Hardy guide to the places, and actually this edition tells you what places mean what. But he just kind of renamed everything. So for example, Oxford is Christminster. I think this says the island down here, and that's the Isle of Wight. But he changed all these place names. So in some of his later books, what he did is kind of standardise a lot of them. So some of his later books have different names for the same place. And I think all he did in some of those later books is change some of the place names, so that across all of the Wessex novels, they all have the same fake names, or some of them he changed the real place names. So anyway, they're all standardised. So some of the books, the differences between them is just maybe a word choice that he preferred, a particular phrase. Some of them I've noticed, like whole sentences are just being rephrased to slightly neater or slightly better, according to Hardy. Some of them have characters changed. I know in Under the Greenwood Tree, there is a character their story has changed ever so slightly. And it does explain it in the note. I would read the whole book and then look at the notes for it. But ultimately, I think I don't think there's like a preferred text or an authorised text, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's a specific one you should be reading. I think any edition is good, but I think sometimes you don't know, especially if you're picking up second-hand copies, you don't know how old the text is and you don't know which one you're going to be getting. And with audio as well, you don't necessarily know, because they don't always say which ones they're going to be getting. So I just wanted to kind of explain that, because I think that maybe it confused some people as to why there were so many like different editions and different variations. As far as I know, it's not the editors of the books or the publishers changing anything. It was Hardy that changed it. So this is all Hardy's work. And as far as I know, there are no like really significant changes. Like I've never heard of any between different editions. So it is just the occasional kind of word choice. And you might have a preference for which word or sentence you prefer in your audio or in your physical book, but they're all good. They're all Hardy. So I just thought that was kind of a good point worth kind of mentioning at this stage. So now we're going to talk about Under the Greenwood Tree. So Under the Greenwood Tree, I've got some notes here about it, is our book for July. It was Hardy's second novel, and I think it is Hardy's shortest novel. So this is the kind of standard Penguin edition, and a lot of this is notes. I put my bookmark right at the beginning, so I knew where it was. So it starts there and goes to, how many pages is it? I think without all the notes, it's less than 200 pages. So it's an incredibly short Hardy novel, but I do think that it actually might be not one of his hardest novels, but I think what happened is that he threw all of the plot at Desperate Remedies and then decided to go the exact opposite direction with Under the Greenwood Tree. And this is probably the Hardy novel that has the least amount of plot. Now there is plot, things do happen, and there are main characters. But this book was originally called The Mellstock Choir, and that is now, I believe, the subtitle of the novel. Let me just double check that I'm not going completely insane. Yeah, The Mellstock Choir, it's got two subtitles: A Rural Painting of the Dutch School. But the novel was originally called The Mellstock Choir, and he renamed it Under the Greenwood Tree and put that as a subtitle. But it is essentially about this small village. This is a small like group of villages in the southwest of England, in Wessex, as Hardy called it, and it is about the choir, and it is all about the people who live there. It's very dialogue heavy, I think. So in terms of audiobooks, there's a great one narrated by, I think it's Robert Hardy, no relation as far as I know, but that's a really great audiobook. But he does some really great, he does the accent really well. But I think if you're not used to the southwest accent, and if you're not used to kind of the dialect, the way that people talk, I think if you're not used to that, I have been told that the audiobook can be quite difficult to pick up what people are saying and to understand, because there's lots of dialogue and there's lots of characters. So you've got a whole choir of people, they're all talking backwards and forwards to each other. I think it can get slightly confusing. I really love Hardy's descriptions of nature and of the landscape, and I think there's quite a lot of that in this book. So if that's not your bag with Hardy, this might not be your favourite. And if you really don't like things written in dialogue, in dialect, sorry, then perhaps this also is not a great one for you. Like I said, there are a couple of main characters. I think they are incidental to the novel. I don't think it really matters what's happening with them, and I'm not going to spoil it and tell you what happens with them. But it is more about the rural landscape. It is about the change that's happening in England to rural communities and the effect that changes are having on them. And in a very kind of small way, you kind of see the impact that changes have on this community. And it is really just like a celebration. Hardy really loved working class people and thought their stories should be told, and that's something that you'll get throughout Hardy novels. So he's really started to kind of pick up steam, I think, towards what are a lot of the themes that he uses in his later novels. But it is really just a focus on that rural life and the ways in which it's changing, and is just the complete opposite, I think, of Desperate Remedies. So if that sounds like the kind of thing that you would like, do join us on reading in July. I know some people have already started because they're trying to create space for Jane Austen July. I have already started before July reading this, but I'm actually, I think, possibly going to read it twice, or just go back and read quite a few bits, because I have read this a couple of times already and I do really like it. And the most important thing though is to talk about the misery scale. So with every book, I'm giving you a misery scale. Quick reminder, this is a scale of Hardy novels, it's not about all misery in the world. It's not comparing these books with other books. It's just comparing Hardy books with each other. And it is just completely subjective, so it's my opinion. I know lots of the discussion, and I'll talk about this when I do my review of Desperate Remedies, but lots of the discussion about Desperate Remedies talked about the misery scale. We had a little bit of a discussion about whether it was an incredibly miserable novel or not, because there is quite a lot of misery in it. And I'd said it was 0.5 on the misery scale, which worried some people, I think, about what's to come. You should be worried. But then other people kind of pointed out, I think, that it's actually the book is quite melodramatic, so it kind of makes the drama seem maybe kind of more funny sometimes, although other people did find it dramatic. But that's just by way of saying that this is entirely subjective. It's just, I guess, a way that you can compare one novel with another. There were some people who said, I don't know why you gave it 0.5, because I would have given it 0. There's no misery at all in Desperate Remedies. They certainly didn't find that. But the reason I gave it 0.5 is so that I had somewhere to go for Under the Greenwood Tree, because on the Hardy misery scale, this is a 0. 0 misery. This is Hardy's happiest novel by far. 0. There is no misery in this. You've got nothing to fear. Nothing to fear, I think. Unless I've like misremembered a massacre or something in the forest, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen. No, this is a 0 on the misery scale, so I think you're absolutely okay. So do let me know if you are intending to join us with reading Under the Greenwood Tree. I will be reviewing all of my thoughts on Desperate Remedies and bringing in some other people's thoughts as well. If you haven't yet joined in the conversation on Discord, you can do. If you're just lurking over there and not commenting, don't worry. Some people message me privately to say, is it okay if I don't really feel comfortable posting? That's absolutely fine. You don't have to. If you do have thoughts that you'd like to share about Desperate Remedies and you don't want to, publicly share them, you can always contact me separately. All of the links to different ways to contact me are in the description box below, and we can have a chat about it. But I will be doing a whole review of Desperate Remedies, so if you want to share your thoughts on that, that will be posted hopefully next week or the week after. I've lost all concept of time, but it will be posted after the end of the month anyway. So if you are joining in with Under the Greenwood Tree, do let me know in the comments below, and I will see you very, very soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching.